So thank you so much. Just to introduce yourself, you want to make sustainable irresistible. Is that your motto?
That's my motto, and that's what I always want to start with, because that's going to preface all we're going to talk about today. So 3 words: make sustainable irresistible, so that we really go after that irresistibility to fasten the change.
So can you explain what is a 50 liters home?
So 50-liter home is both an inspiration and an ambition. The inspiration comes from Cape Town, that maybe some of you know was...
Have you heard about that? The day zero, it came down last March.
Last year, last spring, got into that looming day zero, that day where zero water would come off the tap. And to circumvent that event, the population was brutally constrained to 50 liters per day per person, when they were used to 200 liters per day per person at least, and when the rest of the world can run up to 500 liters per day per person. In fact, my 10-minute shower in the morning is 100 liters, right there. In my first few minutes of the day, I've already used up 100 liters. So that inspired the ambition. As we watched the lives of people at 50 liters per day per person, beautiful long-haired women would actually cut their hair because it was easier to cut the hair rather than wash the hair. People would actually reuse the shower water and transport it into the washing machine, then from the washing machine back into the floor, and from the floor push it to the garden around to actually water the plants around. Some would actually even go and recuperate the water in another bucket and flush the toilets with that. Every time more and more contaminated water. So the ambition was, okay, well, as we watch those lives, what if we could create homes tomorrow that run at 50 liters per day per person, but they feel like 500 liters?
How?
Make sustainable irresistible.
How it could be possible?
Well, you've got to think very differently about the water in the homes. In fact, is that really responsible that on my second one, the shower water is on my head, on second 2 is on my body, on the second 3 is down the sewage? When probably out of my 10 minutes shower, about 9 minutes of that water is pretty clean. Arguably the first minute maybe not, but the 9 left ones are pretty clean. Well, that's the first problem. It gets literally used up into sewage mixed with black water and it's lost. Second problem is that responsible that this water be heated. It's a 40-degree water, and yet again, seconds after use gets mixed with cold black water. What a waste of water, what a waste of energy. So the new thinking is really, how about reusing the water? How do we think differently? How do we think about reusing and enriching, just as a snapshot you've seen on that video?
Can you tell us more about P&G and this program?
Yeah, so 70% of our company relies on products and water because of shampooing, soaping, dishwashing, laundry, etc. And so 70%, in fact 70% of our footprint is in hot water because, as I said earlier, it's not just a water problem. Did you know that the second source of greenhouse gas in your home is your water heating? First is the space heating. So not only you address the water problem, but you address the hot water problem as you think about reusing that water. And last but not least, P&G is actually formulating water chemistry a lot. In fact, did you know that when we clean your hair, we first clean the water before it cleans the hair? And so we feel like with that tremendous impact that we can have with the 5 billion of consumers we serve around the world, we have to do something. It's really a duty and an amazing opportunity for us to innovate this problem.
So how critical is the water issue, and how big can the 50 liters home impact be?
Well, actually, the Cape Town problem is not just an African problem.
It's a worldwide problem.
It's a worldwide problem, and the Day Zero cities, it's got a name, it's called Day Zero, and it's actually all over the world. In fact, we learned as we actually double-clicked on the study...
It's scared. You can check on the Ecosia or Google, Day Zero Cape Town. It's very scared.
It is scary. It is scary, and it's not just Cape Town.
It could be us.
Exactly. Mexico City, actually, just before Christmas, 12 million inhabitants, 12 days, zero water. We couldn't skip the zero water off. In fact, there was an upset in the supply system, got shut down. Los Angeles, can you believe it? Los Angeles has got a looming Day Zero city within the next 5 years. London, Istanbul, and of course, the usual suspects, call it India cities or China. But
So what is the goal of the 21st century?
well, I think we heard this
Water.
morning that Golder, the new goal is water, and
Yeah.
I totally attest to that. In terms of impact, we did some metrics analysis with the World Resource Institute, and just if you would take Los Angeles and Mexico cities, that is two big cities looming day zero, going to 50 liter would actually cut off the equivalent of 1/3 of the Mediterranean Sea, flowing through pipes underneath our feet just invisibly because it's taken for granted. Water is flowing. So it's a lot of water, and I'd submit that at least we could probably fix the residential water problem in the world, one problem off the list, and by the same token, make a big indent on energy, that's famous hot water energy.
So can you tell us more about what is the work P&G exactly doing with this 50 liters home idea?
Yeah, so P&G is not going to build homes, and certainly not 50 homes, but we're here because we want to partner with cross-sector collaboration to create those home living that makes 50 liter feel like 500 liter per day per person. So, we look for partners. We ideally would like to create an alliance of partners that, constructors, buildings, public, private collaboration that can create that new standard of living. And at the looming sort of 18 months, my dream would be that we could create a couple of demonstration of 50 liter home living, real, tangible, concrete living in a couple of cities.
How can you to know that we are use 50 liters?
How do you know?
Yeah.
Well,
Imagine for each family. That's
the first problem, and in fact, that's part of the solutions. To need to bring the invisible visible. We need innovation that can reuse water and purify that water. And we also need innovation that brings the invisible visible, which is that water that flows, that is underneath the floor, behind the walls.
With fresh water at the same time when you took your shower?
Yes. But you've got emergence of very interesting smart tools, right? You just clip that little sensor on your tap, very mobile, transportable, and then you can start to see it. If we don't see it, who will care?
So which products you already have that serve the 50 liters home purpose?
We are a company that I said that work with water for so many years, and we're doing a lot on hot water efficiency. And we've got a booth there that talks about Ariel using up 50% less of resource efficiency. It's essentially hot water and energy, and we've been doing that for years. We're launching, in fact, in Cape Town, we've just launched a waterless shampoo, which is really a new sort of next generation of dry shampoo. But granted, even in Cape Town, when we were toying with consumers, co-creating that dry shampoo, and they were very thrilled with it, the moment after I would ask, what if...
It's a very challenging market, no?
It
because
is.
I know many brands who launch dry shampoo, and it's very challenging.
Well, it's actually been very pleasant. So we are early phase of the launch, but the people were thrilled. And yet, after the thrill, if you say, how about I'm going to give you back your shower?
Can we
they
try?
Are all over the place.
In France, can we try this new brands or not?
Yeah, I think this is part of exploitation probably. Okay. So this technology is not to be confined with Cape Town. So more to come on this. But I don't think that's the destination. Nobody in this world, even in Cape Town, would tell us, I just dream of a world where there would be no water anymore and dry shampoo is all over the place. Because the moment I would ask those people, how about I'm bringing back your shower, they would jump all over the place and say, when can you do that? How much can I pay for that? So aspiration for all is water still. And so yes, we want to have some events where you don't need to necessarily have a lot of water, but water is really desirable in life of people.
I've got a last question for you. So who is partnering with you, actually?
At this stage, it's all open, and that's why we're here. And that's why we're thrilled to see all of you, and can't wait to talk to you and talk to you at the booth like I've done all the morning. So all open. List is welcome. I think it's as I said, we're not going to build homes. It's really about construction, building, infrastructure, engineering of water, energy, water companies, innovators in appliance, in homes, refurbishment, you name it. We will know we're going to have a value chain collaboration and cross-sector in cities, by the way, to make it happen. So again, work ongoing. Ideally, soon enough, we can start doing that because we want to shift gears and deliver, as I said, demonstration of 50-liter home living in a couple of cities. And so we're here to welcome you.
Thank you so much, Frantz. So now, I think you've got some questions for the last session of the hot seat for today. The first one, yeah. Someone, don't be shy. We've got the chance to have Procter & Gamble just for you, in ultimate area. Go.
Thank you. Very inspiring thought. Do you also look at the amount of water that's lost now, not inside homes per se, but also say we are an NGO active in Kenya, and in the rainy season, 60 to 70% of the rainwater just flushes away unutilized. Is that within the scope of Procter & Gamble as well, or is it really focused on the in-home activities, which would also make sense? But
No, I think it's a holistic problem. I think the whole water supply chain needs some reinvention. And so I think this is really the stimulus to create a new innovation, the next S-curve, as we say, the next innovation curve of this industry. And so, no, we want to do that. In fact, there's a lot of loss, probably 30 is the minimum. I didn't hear as bad as 60, but it's got to be holistic. It's got to be about, as we demonstrate in city, these pilots, I think, this is where we want to gather these partners and look out. And you start with probably, a scope, and this scope will flourish for sure. So it's very holistic, way beyond. Sure.
Could you open the microphone? We've got a problem with microphone.
Again, what are the concrete measures to reduce to 50 liters in a household in a town like Paris or wherever in the world?
Well,
Concrete.
first, I don't have the map yet because I'd like to co-create this map with partners. But it's a lot about reusing water. So if you think about reusing water in my shower, why the shower which actually is just flush out, as I said, seconds after I've used it? How about we create recycling of shower water and purification in that stream? How about shower water could actually flush the toilets? How about we can have connections between, this is what we're talking about. This is creating links, that today are not happening. And this is really, I would say in some cases small retrofitting in the form of appliances retrofitting, or even hoses in the shower that you could easily retrofit. I always speak to the Gardena, brand that I do my garden with, where it's all clippable things, very modular, and you can build and retrofit anything, up to new buildings, new cities, whereby you design that 50-liter home from the start with the right piping.
Could you open the microphone, please?
Have you talked to all the producers of the sanitary business yet in Frankfurt, for example?
We are speaking, but I would never claim I've talked to all of them, so definitely want to connect together.
Frantz, don't you think that it's a little bit, it's just not a little bit, it's very ridiculous that most of our water of our toilets is drinkable? Are you agree that it's just ridiculous? How it could be still possible? Because I used to traveling in many developing countries with many rural communities and indigenous people, and they don't have drinkable water, okay? And how many liters for when we go to the toilet?
20 liters.
20 liters.
So
It could be, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't have the words in English, but
yeah,
c'est énervant.
you could even say it's a little insane. And so this is
Insane,
what, back to this
insane.
question, is that how do you rethink totally the waters, the streams? What should be drinkable, what should not be drinkable? What goes from what to what place? And so that's like a white page. That's why I didn't want to be too preclusive about what it is. How do you do 50 tone? Because I think there's a white page, but we've got to rethink those questions to start with. Like, what is insane today are we doing?
Yeah.
And frankly, we've got a little booth where we play, so you can come and join us, and we play with those, what water can go where, and what is, what am I ready to accept? And this is exactly the conversation we're triggering. Other question?
Other question, yeah.
Yes, one question here. Every solution starts with recognizing the problem, and it's pretty easy to imagine that in Cape Town or in Mexico, when you don't have water coming out, you will care for it, and you will look for solutions. But in most parts of Europe today, or US and in part of Asia, there is no awareness of the problem. So how do you, if it is to be scalable, and if people are to care and to invest into alternative solutions, how do you make them realize that this will be a problem, maybe not today, but in a couple of years for them?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's probably where it's a little more complicated. And that's where it goes back to my motto, which is to make sustainable irresistible. So there's two ways to answer your question. One is we're going to really create those sensors, and they are existing today, and they're going to bring the invisible visible, and people will start to see their usage. And frankly, I think they'll be more shocked about the energy cost than the water cost. And that's okay. In fact, for me, as long as it makes the point, it's going to work. The second is create innovation that are designed to be irresistible. It's not an innovation that actually solves the water problem, but it's innovation that is going to create a new benefit in your home just because now you're reusing the water. And so that's the magic that we need to create. Think that very differently. Don't think about solving a problem. Think about how you, now that you look holistically at this new definition of make 50, feel like 500, what are the new benefits we can bring? What are the new experience with water that you can bring in that you could never? Frankly, look at this little boy that is flapping the water and it's so playful. What if, really we could make 50 equals 500? What is his abundance? Think about all the experiences we could create in the home as we think very differently about the paradigm. And I think this will help tremendously those populations that are not going to be motivated by the water scarcity, but by innovation that makes life more playful.
And just 50 liters home is for 4 people, no?
No.
It's calculated.
Good question. It's a 50 liter per day per person.
Per day per person.
Right. Just like in Cape Town, they were constrained overnight on a 50
included the toilet water?
Everything.
Okay.
Everything, definitely. Without drinkable water.
Without drinkable water, of course. There is another question, yeah.
Yeah, just a short question. Once you have the roadmap in place and the partners, what are the places you want to start to try, this new solution or this new idea? Will it be in Europe? Will it be in the States? Paris, London, Zurich? Where is the playground, basically?
So, of course, we're at SB Paris, we have to be Paris.
You have to be.
No, actually, it's also a great question. I think it would be extremely good to do it in two or three places. One, I would say I'm thinking about Los Angeles, frankly, because this is a looming day zero city. And to the question I asked, that was asked just before, there's a level of awareness, but innovation that creates irresistibility would be the main driver. So we're going to really think about irresistibility. Then I want probably to think about Mexico City or Africa, where there's a real scarcity problem. And population are in trouble already. And then I'm thinking about innovation in places like China that are building new buildings every minute so that we can design those buildings well from the start. Because all these buildings will be not the ones that will have to retrofit in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. So we need to intercept the new built environment. So I would say 2 to 3 cities would be kind of what I'd put as a stake in the ground.
But Frantz, I have a question on that. Don't you think it won't be so much difficult to start, for example, in Los Angeles? Because, as you know, American people use much water than European people. So maybe it's more challenging for you. So why starting in Los Angeles with American people?
So Los Angeles is a little bit of a not so American people. In fact, they already are on pretty low water. In fact, Los Angeles is probably on the lower range of the take. Like if America goes,
it's not Las Vegas. Las Vegas, it could be.
No, it's Los Angeles. And so if it's a spectrum of America, but you're right, America would go from 300 to 500. Yeah. They're more on the 300 side, and I think that's a good challenge to take. If I would not want to go in cities that typically use 500, you're right.
We would like to follow you on the field and on social work to see that.
You'll come over and see those pilots for sure. Yeah.
Other question?
There's one
there was a woman.
Hello. You are talking a lot about building at first, rethinking the homes, but how do you tackle the building that already exists, and how do you do with all the buildings that already are built and are old buildings, for example, in France, and there are a lot of work. So when also, the question is, when could we think about this utopia?
Yeah. Hopefully, it's less than an utopian ambition, but 50%. It's very clear. 50% of homes have to be built, and they'll more, into Asia. 50% of the homes will be already built. So this project is about both. It's about new build and already built, for sure. And that's why I was saying to the earlier question, I'd like to go to Los Angeles and Mexico City where we've got built environment. It's not about new build. New build is only China. And yes, it's more difficult, but we've got to be clever. We've got to be thinking about retrofittable solutions. Think about hose that I can hook to my shower and put recycling things. I was talking about Gardena as a brand that does all of these water gardening tools, where you basically have modules and you can clip very easily hose to filters and make this little bricolage. We've got to be thinking about things that hose that I can simply hook up onto current showers. I've got to think about appliances that actually are going to have self-recycling water systems in it. So it's not about tearing down walls and making plumber, come in every hose and make it happen. It could be really in the form of screwing up a hose or simply a new appliance or a retrofitting of an appliance. And that's why we've got to work and partner with these different industries and people. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. 50-50.
Yeah. And the last question for Frantz. Enjoy, Procter & Gamble for you. Okay, so we close this last session. Thank you so much, Frantz.